It is Tuesday, August 5th, right here on your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns, presented to you by Rogue Sports Network. That's Jake Jimerson. I'm Tanner Carlson, and this is All In Horns. Jake, is there a little bit of a quarterback controversy in Austin? A little bit of quarterback competition action, not involving Arch Manning, obviously, but at the number 2 spot, there is a little bit of a competition happening, and it may not even be the quarterback that you think it might be. A lot of Texas fans that are kind of within the program know the recruiting might be thinking, oh, is KJ Lacey pushing for that number 2 job? It might not be KJ Lacey. In fact, reports are all indicating that it is possible that it is between Trey Owens and Caldwell will be the two guys battling it out for QB2, which gives me kind of pause in terms of, well, whoever loses that battle, I can imagine will be QB3. KJ Lacey, I think that's an automatic redshirt year as well.
Yeah, that honestly, to me, that's not very surprising. I always kind of just assumed KJ Lacey would be the odd man out in a red shirt this year. I'd imagine he was told that in recruiting. Because I know the stat, despite some of the fan base maybe not being very excited about Trey Owens, just because he wasn't this super high recruit like a Diabell, who's coming in next year, is KJ Lacey with all the records he set at his high school in his state. The stats very high on Trey Owens and thinks he has pro potential and is a power conference starting quarterback. And that's what's in his future, whether that, end up being at Texas or whether it be somewhere else. They brought Caldwell in to bring someone in that has a little more game experience, is a little older, just more experience being in a college program, and having him, just kind of push the competition. And it sounds like Caldwell looks pretty solid and maybe has a little bit more running than Trey Owens does. But it seems like the competition is coming down to those two. Not to say KJ Lacey hasn't looked good. I would have found it a little far-fetched to imagine a true freshman winning the QB2 battle over to a guy that's been with Sark for a year and then a guy that's been in college for several years. I just don't see a world where KJ Lacey would have ended up being the backup this year. But it'll be fun to see who wins that battle between Trey Owens and Caldwell, because guess what? We haven't had a season at Texas where we've had the same starting quarterback last the whole season since, I think, Sam Ehlinger. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And so you got to be ready for a backup to have to play a game or two.
Yeah. Matthew Caldwell, for those who don't know his journey, committed to Auburn out of high school. So obviously was a big recruit coming out of high school, transferred to Jackson State and then to Gardner-Webb, then Troy. So he's kind of had to make his way back up through the ranks. And then obviously he's going to finish his college playing career, well, possibly his college playing career for the University of Texas. And so Trey Owens, he's a redshirt freshman coming into this year. He's had a year under his belt in the Sark system. He's probably a little bit more trusted by the coaching staff. And I think that's going to be a big telltale sign. Who does this coaching staff trust if you have to go into a game in an emergency situation and can run this offense at least somewhat efficiently? Going through your checkdowns, going through your progressions, making the right play calls at the line of scrimmage with your offensive line, trusting what the defense is giving you. Who is the coaching staff going to trust to do the bare minimum for this offense to have the most efficiency if a backup situation ever comes into play? I think that's Trey Owens. Me personally, I'm not out on the field watching practice. Matthew Caldwell might be looking better, and he might be grasping the offense at a very quick rate. But I just know when it comes to Sark and his offense, it typically takes a player 1 or 2 seasons to fully understand and grasp what the offense being handed to him is. I think the only player we've seen come in on year 1 is Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, and that was out of necessity, not necessarily want.
Right.
That they needed to have a quarterback that could be the guy. And, when Quinn committed to Texas after transferring from Ohio State, that's just how it was going to be. And so it'll be interesting to see who wins it out. Caldwell was brought in for a reason. Sarkisian watched his tape, liked traits that he saw to bring him in and compete for the quarterback 2 job. And I don't think he was brought in just to push them. I think he was brought in because they think he's a legitimate option to win the backup quarterback job. And I think it's going to come down to a lot of who protects the ball as well. That's probably one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, with your backup quarterback job, because it's one thing to go in there and get a lead, as we saw with Malik Murphy just a few years ago, where he came in, got Texas some big leads in games he played in, but then some kind of boneheaded interceptions brought those teams back into the games. That K-State game that, I think a lot of people think about frequently because of how crazy that game was going into overtime. Texas pulling it out. That game should have never been brought back to overtime. Texas had kind of choked that game away because of turnovers and some interceptions by Murphy. So I think who protects the ball, who can go through their progressions the easiest, and who can just run the offense, like you said, in a poised manner while protecting the ball. Whoever looks the most comfortable with that, because I think Trey Owens is probably going to be the most explosive, at least when it comes to arm talent, for sure. I mean, we know he has a booming arm. We've seen enough of him in spring, in his first spring game, especially, that he has a rocket for an arm. But if you're going to go in and use that rocket for an arm to throw it to the other team, and you can't trust that you're going to protect the ball, that could give Caldwell the nod over him.
It could. It very well could. And you know what? We might see the depth chart change from the non-conference season to conference season within San Jose State, Sam Houston State, and I always forget the third one. There's
UTEP.
UTEP. Yeah. I always get at least 2 out of the 3 cupcakes that Texas has on their schedule. But God forbid we see Arch play a full game in all 3 of those games. We have some serious problems. And so I would imagine in the second half of those games is really where we're going to see a Matthew Caldwell or a Trey Owens come in. Maybe one guy comes in to the third quarter, late in the third quarter. Maybe another guy finishes that out in another game. And maybe he swaps them out to kind of gauge and use those as preseason games, if you will, going into conference play of, if Arch goes down against Oklahoma, God forbid, who's going to step in and take that spot.
Yeah, and I'd imagine that's what Sarkisian would never say that out loud, but I'd imagine in the back of his mind that's what he's hoping those games will be used for.
Yeah.
And I imagine he wishes that Ohio State wasn't the first game and it was the second or the third game.
Yeah.
Because as we talked about previously on this podcast, that would probably be a better situation for Texas, just to get things humming early on the offensive end. But yeah, I would imagine those games are going to be used as kind of a impromptu quarterback competition if they are able to do so, and have maybe one guy play one quarter, one guy play another, and just kind of see how it shakes out, which could lead to some more aggressive play calling with backup quarterbacks in, if he still wants to see that competition play out going into the season. Because once you're in SEC play, you need to have it solidified who is coming in if you're at the Swamp and Arch goes down, or you're in the Cotton Bowl, or you're in the middle of a close game against A&M or Arkansas or whoever it is. You got to know who's going to be coming in if emergency strikes.
Yeah, and the team has to know too.
Yeah, they got something they believe in as well.
Yep. The offense, the wide receivers need to know who they're going to be catching the ball from, and I'm sure, again, this isn't anything that Sark's going to go into the season not, and the team just not know who QB2 or QB3 are. They're going to have a very good idea, and the players are going to have a good idea. But he'll make that decision. I believe that decision could change by week 3, week 4, going into conference play is all I'm kind of saying. So, all right, Jake, I read something on Emmett Mosley and how his journey to where he is today has kind of taken place. He was a true freshman at Stanford last year and really didn't do a whole lot in terms of numbers wise for Stanford. Now, granted, they had the quarterback and the offense that they had, and then exploded. I believe it was against Cal in that game where he had like 13 catches, over 250 yards, 3 touchdowns. And he had 5 of his 6 touchdowns in the final 4 weeks of the regular season last year, and really ended his freshman season very strong for the Stanford Cardinals. Now he's at Texas, and where he fits into this rotation, where you've got guys like a Parker Livingstone who are making rising players who have been in Sark's system for now a season and going into year 2, maybe even year 3. Then you've got 5-star freshmen, whether that be Kalik Lockett or Jamie French right on your tail. And then obviously he's not going to jump DeAndre Moore or Ryan Wingo in that aspect, but where he kind of fits in and how he's developed along. Apparently, he's looking good. He's every bit of what they wanted him to be coming in as a transfer. But also don't look at him as this like staple slot number 3 option guy on this roster. I think Texas is too deep at wide receiver for anybody to be that one player where you've got a 1, 2, 3 option and then kind of the fill-ins below. I think Livingstone's going to be in a rotation. I think Dylan McCutcheon could be in a rotation. I think Kalik Lockett has an opportunity to be in a rotation. I think there's going to be situations where you're going to put Jack injuries into a slot position, and you can move a tight end out and have maybe a bigger opportunity like a Travis Kelce, George Kittle type role with your tight end with a 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end look in there. I don't think that Emmett Mosley is like, this is the 3rd guy right here on this roster. I just don't think the offense works that way. However, I think he has the talent and he's showing in practice. He's in that mix. He's one of those 2 to 3 guys who's going to be in that role.
Yeah, I think the wide receiver group kind of works out to where you have your 1 and 2 solidified with DeAndre Moore, Ryan Wingo. I think Emmett Mosley and Parker Livingston are just kind of right in that next tier, right below that, as far as how much they're going to be utilized. I think they're going to be utilized a similar amount just based off what we're reading so far. And then I think McCutcheon is probably the next in line based off everything I've read. And then I think it's kind of the rest of those true freshmen, even though they were higher recruits than McCutcheon. It seems like McCutcheon is just coming in a little bit more ahead than French and Lockett were from a understanding the offense standpoint, a route running standpoint, and just making plays out in the practice field. So that to me kind of seems like they probably have 5 guys that they fully trust to go out there and be effective.
And then you count your tight ends in there as well, Jordan Washington and then Jack Hendries. And so you're probably looking at, Jake, 6 to 7 guys that Arch is probably comfortable and that the coaching staff is comfortable rotating out there as your pass catchers.
In Amari Winston or Spencer Shannon could be mentioned as well at tight end. The tight end room seems crowded in a very good way this year. We know Andres is going to be the one. The question is, who else is going to see playing time at that tight end position? Because I know they're very high on Jordan Washington. He's apparently a very good blocker, which, by the way, Emmett Mosley,
yes.
One of my favorite things from his Stanford tape is his blocking.
So
I imagine I think the wide receiver blocking as a whole is going to be the best it has been by far under Steve Sarkisian. And that is very important for the run game.
So that is one thing. I'm glad you mentioned that, Jake. That was one of the biggest parts of what I was reading in terms of his scouting report and why he is so highly thought of from this coaching staff is because his ability to block an open space to allow your screen passes, whether that be to Wingo or to Moore, your RPO game, where it takes a lot for your wide receivers who aren't going on routes on the RPOs, because typically your RPOs, you've got 1, maybe 2 guys in an RPO scheme going on routes on those particular plays. And so the other guys have to block. The other guys are basically screen blockers, and you've got to free up your Ryan Wingos. You got to free up a Trey Wisner in the backfield or CJ Baxter, whoever's going to be running the ball for your running backs in the run game, but also in the pass game. You've got to go out there and sell the pass, and then you've got to go immediately into blocking. And apparently, from all accounts, Emmett Mosley is probably the best player on the entire wide receiving group that has that ability. And so I think that in itself is going to garner him a lot of reps in the offense this year.
And with your jet sweeps, your crazy misdirection plays like we saw against Florida, Wingo is going to get the ball handed to him this year, not just thrown to him, but handed to him multiple times. And I would be that wide receiver blocking is even more important on those perimeter type run plays. So I'm very excited to see how this wide receiver bunch blocks, because it's something that's been hit and miss. I mean, with Xavier Worthy, he just wasn't big enough to be an effective blocker. Adonai Mitchell didn't really try blocking until they got into the playoffs. Last year, wide receiver blocking was okay. It was hit and miss at times. And so I'm excited to see if that helps kind of open up the run game and what the run game is going to look like this year. Because I know they weren't happy with how they ran the ball last year, especially against those top teams. And that's something that they're going to look to at least make look improved week one, which is really hard to do in a week one. But watching that run game against Ohio State's front is going to be one of the things I'm most excited to see in that game is, can Texas run the ball remotely effectively in that game? And I think that wide receiver blocking can be part of the formula that helps improve things.
And Jake, some a little birdie, some reports out there saying Arch might be under center a little bit. At least there's some practice formations where he's under center. Something you brought up immediately at the moment you read that out to me. Play action rollout game, and I think that is a very valuable asset to Arch's talent and his ability to move the pocket from the middle of the field to the numbers. And so I think that's a brilliant way to do it. But I think that's just an added wrinkle for Sark to play with. And I wouldn't even say under center is old school. It is old school in terms of college football. It's old school. But I just think that there's so many other things you can utilize if it's performed well within your offense, of just another thing the defense has to keep an eye on. Is it run play? Is it pass play? What is it? Design quarterback rollout? What are we doing here? And I just think it allows Sark to give the defense another look that they have to identify.
It allows you to take play action shots down the field. When you're, in the middle of the field, you're back in your own territory. But also something that I think about heavily is the red zone issues. Well, guess what? You're inside the 3-yard line. You're not able to run the ball as successful as you want to against, against Ohio State. A little play action rollout where Arch can run it to the corner of the end zone, go Vince Young style to the corner of the end zone to score, or,
push.
And also, how about this for the wide receivers and the tight end? There's going to be more scramble drills than we've seen with Quinn Ewers. Not just Arch's ability to actually get up the field and make rushing yards happen, but also to extend some plays where there's pressure. And then, you have your tight ends move with the quarterback. You have your wide receivers move with the quarterback, and more unscripted type of stuff that I think is going to help a lot in the red zone. And that's why for me, the question is, will the offense be able to move the ball, especially early in the season, as effectively as we've seen in the last couple of years? If they're able to move the ball as effectively, I think they're going to be much better at finishing drives with the personnel that they have. I think it lines up better for red zone play, especially if a CJ Baxter can be healthy and give you carries, especially if Jarek Gibson has come along long enough to be a red zone type running back. And then you add in bootlegging, you add in maybe a read option, you add in, the RPO game with Arch. I think the playbook should be a lot more open in the red zone, just because of Arch's skill set versus Quinn's skill set when it comes to using his legs.
That and I would just like to see this offense use way more multiple looks offensively and just have a multiple based offense of, you're not necessarily just spread. You're not spread option. You're not this, that, the other. You can be under center. You can be an I formation. I'd love to see a center or maybe not a fullback, but I'd love to see, Jordan Washington back there, or heck, put in Cole Bavard and do a little Trevondre Sweat, Byron Murphy action. I'd love to see pistol formation out of this team a little bit more. I know they do it from time to time, but I'd like to see it, more often, especially with a guy like Arch Manning, who has the skill set and the ability to maybe perform it a little bit better and a little bit more effectively than a hobbled. I'll put in the superlative hobbled Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, Quinn was more of a drop back passer. Arch is more of I think there's going to be a lot more moving the pocket, which
he's a Josh Allen. He's the ability to do everything.
Well, and a plus to being able to move the pocket is it helps the offensive line as well. And I think the offensive line, I think the pass blocking, when you talk about concerns with the offensive line, I think the pass blocking is the number one concern because communication, gelling together, inexperience at dealing with college level blitzes when it comes to a Neto, when it comes to whoever starts at right tackle, is going to be the biggest question. Cole Hudson at center having to probably make more reads. That's something I think a lot of people take for granted that Jake Majors did, but making a lot of calls at the line of scrimmage. Is Cole Hudson going to be that guy? Is DJ Campbell going to be that guy? A lot of that communication stuff that you worry about in the offensive line, a lot of that comes down to pass blocking more than it does run blocking. Run blocking is much more simple at its core than pass blocking. And so being able to move the pocket, being able to have your quarterback extend plays, it's kind of a perfect year for Arch Manning to be taking over as the Texas quarterback because he will be able to help out the offensive line a little bit more. And I think we're going to see a lot less traditional drop back passing. I think it's going to be a lot of RPOs. I think it's going to be a lot of moving the pocket, rollouts, getting Arch on the move. And then we'll still see drop back passing, of course. But when that happens, I think we'll see Arch extend the play, get out of the pocket, and try to make some plays happen a lot more than we've seen in previous years.
No, I completely agree. All right, Jake, we have spent all 20 minutes of this episode on the offense. Let's go ahead, go to the defensive side of the ball. A story of note, this could just be, again, gamesmanship by the Texas Longhorn coaching staff. It could just be experimenting something for one practice and just seeing how things are. Practices, I don't try to take too much stock into practices because not only are the players experimenting and trying new things as players and seeing what works, doesn't work within their play, and they might just be trying to learn something new that looks a little rusty or they're trying to figure something out. The coaches are also doing that with their roster. The coaches are also doing that with personnel, where to line guys up at. However, it was put out there earlier, I think Sunday, that Michael Taaffe had some reps at the star position.
Yeah, and part of this too is Joanne Aquina being at the program again. I know when he was at Texas before, cross training was very popular. I know PK is a big fan of cross, not only in the secondary, but in the front seven, of having guys know how to play multiple positions. So I think that plays into it. But I also just think it plays into they know they have a lot of talent back in the secondary, but I think the star position is going to decide how kind of the secondary rotation ends up panning out. And I think they're just experimenting and trying different things and trying to figure out what is going to give us the best complete secondary.
Yep.
And Taaffe is one of those pieces that is going to be back there. Throw him in there at star. He has the skill set to play it. Why not give it a try? They've messed with Jelani McDonald there. Obviously, Littleton has taken some starting snaps there. Wardell Mack is definitely very much in the conversation.
Jalen Gilbo has made his career there. So
yeah, and Gilbo could be moved back there out of comfort of knowing, well, him and Kobe Black are really close at the corner position. Move Gilbo there. Granted, with corners, if you're the third corner, you're a starting corner at this point in college football. But what are they going to do when it comes to how the secondary? We know the kind of the names that are going to be out there, but what positions, what's going to end up looking like, and then that'll lead to knowing what the rotations are going to look like at safety, at corner, at the star position. And I think the star position is going to be this final puzzle piece that ends up putting everything together. I don't think Taaffe will end up being the guy to start there, but you got to be ready for injuries down in the season as well. And so Taaffe understanding how to play the position will help you, because if a Littleton is starting there or a Mack is starting there, or both of them get hurt or something crazy like that happens, and then maybe you want Jelani McDonald at safety more than you want Taaffe there, and you move Taaffe there. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, I think, throughout the season.
And with the flex training, Jake, and guys playing different positions, again, injuries happen. That's what this whole episode has kind of been with QB2 conversation, the Emmett Mosley conversation. Injuries happen. So if your starter goes down, who's stepping in? And then what does that rotation do to the remainder of your secondary?
Yeah. And so to me, it's just kind of exciting to see how they're experimenting. And also, it's just, like I said, it's planning ahead. Last year they were never expecting 2 running backs to go down before week 1. And then they kind of had to move Niblett to running back, take a grad transfer out. I think they just the staff, I mean, Sarkisian grows as a coach every year. I think we would both agree that he has improved as a head coach every year at the University of Texas. And I think this is all just part of that. The whole staff, you learn every single year. And so cross training, trying to have guys ready to go at multiple positions so that you can always have your best possible lineup out there to give you the best chance to win, and having that flexibility like we've seen at offensive line. I think we'll see it secondary, the linebacker position. Brad Smith's they feel good enough about other guys that Brad Smith moves to edge. We've seen a lot of this cross training, so I don't think it's anything, definitely not to worry about. I think it's only a good thing.
Oh yeah, and it may not be guys moving to a position permanently. It's just that they now have the ability to plug them in if they need them to play in that, or put them in a rotation where we might see Brad Spence move back to linebacker and play a Will or a Sam or something like that, and then we might have him at edge primarily for one game. We didn't really know what we wanted to do with Trey Moore for a good portion of the season. It took him a little bit to get his feet under him, and then once he did, my God, he was one of the more impressive players on that defense for the final 4 games of the regular season and going into the playoffs.
And now he'll be playing more off the ball linebacker this year. Yep. Another guy who we're going to see line up at multiple positions on the defense. I think that's just going to come commonplace when you recruit as much talent as Texas has. Those guys are so talented that they can affect the field in multiple different places. And I think the staff is going to utilize that. They're going to utilize it as a way, Littleton probably not, he's recorded as a cornerback. He's probably not going to see many reps at the boundary corner position this year. That's pretty solidified. So having him ready, he's so talented. They want to get him on the field, have him start learning the star position now. I think cross training is just good. It's already been kind of a staple of the Sarkisian era. I think it's only going to continue to grow and grow more as more depth gets added to the roster.
And as fans, what we need to do as fans, people listening to this show, people on Twitter, get out of your head of traditional position rotation at the football, especially at the college football level. Guys aren't just traditional corners anymore. You don't just have a traditional linebacker anymore. Now, Anthony Hill, probably not going to go anywhere other than Mike, but you're going to have guys on this rotation. It's kind of developing into like this positionless basketball that we're seeing at the NBA and at the college level, where guys are just, you have forwards bringing the ball up. You've got big men, running point and, things of that nature in the basketball level. You're kind of seeing it now really take over college football. You could even go to Ohio State and look at Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs plays at the line of scrimmage all the time. He's down low with the linebackers. He's back as the last man back, playing an Earl Thomas type safety role as well. So it's like he's all over the place. And if you can find players of that caliber to do that, you're going to execute, or you're going to put them in positions to make those plays wherever they really can. And so I think Sark and PK are ahead of the curve. They always try to find the new trendy thing and not follow the trend, but actually develop and create the trend themselves. And they're always looking to improve, and always looking for new ways to implement a guy or to use a guy's skill set to their advantage. And I think that's what has made Texas one of the premier prime destinations in recruiting as well. And we've seen that on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, I'm happy you said that about the recruiting, because that's what I was going to say next was this helps sell to recruits too, because guess what scouts like to see for the NFL? They like to see versatility. Guess what caused Jahdae Barron to go from what talked about as a 4th or 5th round guy to a round 1 guy? The fact he looked really good at the star position for multiple years, then became the best corner in college football whenever he switched to corner. That is what made he could have been the best kind of star hybrid type player in the country last year. And I don't think his draft stock would have gone near as high as it did, because he made the switch to corner and had the year he did. So having this versatility also sells to going to the NFL and boosting your draft stock. So I think when they recruit guys a lot, they talk about using them in multiple different ways. And I think we'll see that on offense as well with a guy like a Michael Terry. He's learning wide receiver right now. Don't be surprised if he's learning how to play a running back position or tight end position, or multiple different ways to get guys like that on the field, especially as they aren't freshmen anymore and start to become sophomores, juniors, seniors, and have been in the program longer and have that time to learn those multiple different positions.
All right. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, All In Horns. We're trying to get to 800 before the regular season starts. So that gives us a little less than a month to get to 800 subscribers before Ohio State kicks off at 12. And so, yeah, we're looking forward to it. Help us get us there. It's cost you nothing except a click of your mouse on the subscribe button. Give us a like. Give us a watch, interact with us in the comment section. Please get our engagement up. And again, we try to engage with you as much as we possibly can. But the more support that we get from our subscribers, the more content we can provide for each and every single one of you. And so we appreciate the support that you've already given us. But again, if you can help spread the word, we definitely appreciate it. That's Jake Jimerson. This is Tanner Carlson. This has been your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All In Horns. As always, ladies and gentlemen, hook 'em.